evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Dr. Ramsey, for that introduction and also for this opportunity to be with all these amazing people today. Your Majesty, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's my esteemed honor to be here to speak about the role of cultural diplomacy as a tool for Africa's rural transformation and sustainable development. First, I'd introduce myself. I'm Adaeze Ekwueme. That's the pronunciation.
I'm sorry, I do apologize.
No, it's fine. It's cultural diplomacy, exchanging the right pronunciation. I'm from a very beautiful country in the west of Africa called Nigeria.
I'm very beautiful as well.
Thank you very much. And I serve as the CEO of the Eti-Oni Development Group. We're a community development organization based in southwest Nigeria, and that's where His Majesty is the traditional monarch. But before I start, I'd just like to get a bit of a feeler. If anyone can just tell me what comes to mind when they first hear Nigeria, or if I say Nigeria, what do you think? Oil. Oil. Very good one. Boko Haram? Yes, please. God. Very good. God. Okay. Okay.
Nollywood. And the angel of health.
Nollywood. That's a good one. So
also the angel of health.
Angel of
Health.
health.
Because most of the doctors and nurses we don't hear only mostly from Nigeria.
Angel of health.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, like health, God, like God.
There's no health system there.
No, but all
Not that.
In here, Nigeria.
Yeah. Well, I'm not here to debate on matters of of that. I'm here to talk about rural transformation. So hopefully, with our rural transformation, there could be better health systems. So I'm quite happy. I got some positive responses. God, I guess Nollywood, and then a few. Oil could be positive, negative, depending on how you look at it. Boko Haram, but just that general feeling of danger or sort of negative undertone. I was very happy with, actually nobody said the ultimate one that I get all the time. Oh, I get all these emails from Nigeria. I always get that. And I have to explain to people that no, we're not all sending you emails. In fact, I'll say it as a Nigerian, 99.9% of those people are not from Nigeria. They just know that when they use Nigeria, it sounds better. I liked what Professor Chowdhury said as well about how in the media, it's very easy to look at one particular group of people and class everyone the same. So I like to also think of myself as a cultural diplomat. I try and change the rhetoric of what people may expect from a Nigerian, try and give them a different perspective, let them know we're not all about sending emails or all about being corrupt or dodgy. Yes, we are God-fearing people. We are also very respectful people, very moralistic. But I also want to ask a question now. Since it's late in the day, I guess I can get some audience participation. Okay, when I say palm trees, what destination comes to mind?
I know exactly. I don't Nigeria.
Okay, so maybe you shouldn't, okay, so maybe someone.
Bahamas is usually pine.
Thank you.
That's right.
Okay, Bahamas, Miami, I'll say maybe Hawaii, yes, the Caribbean, somewhere, let's say paradise, tropical. Now, for example, if I said, well,
Coconut in bucket, but agree.
well, yes. Okay, if I said, for example, well, we've already sort of discussed this, films, movies, which destination? Hollywood, Bollywood. Thank you, Nollywood. Okay, this is
Bollywood or Nollywood?
Nollywood.
Because Nollywood is Pakistan.
Pollywood.
Lollywood is
Lolly.
Nollywood.
With an
Lollywood.
lolly.
They call their cinema Lollywood.
Lolly.
Pakistan.
Okay.
No, this is Nollywood. And
This is
Nollywood with an N. Okay, now this is an interesting one. Louis Vuitton. What's the destination that comes to your mind when I say Louis Vuitton?
Italy.
France, Paris. It's, yes. Now, chocolate. Switzerland. Uganda? Okay. They have chocolate? Okay.
Cocoa is not even.
Belgium, Switzerland.
The
Okay.
best.
The best? Belgium, Switzerland? Okay.
You are not the salesperson, are you?
Well, I'm taking my time to get there. Okay, so now, thank you, you've already sort of answered it. What if I did tell you that the palm tree, scientific name Adaeze Ekwueme, originated from...
Nigeria.
Yes, thank you.
We have knife for it.
Thank you. Now, this is a palm tree that produces oil palm. It's native to Nigeria, and it has naturalized to other parts of West and Southwest Africa, as well as Indonesia, Malaysia, Madagascar, Sri Lanka, those tropical islands, Indian Ocean, Seychelles, Mauritius, Maldives, Pacific Ocean islands, Hawaii. And so in essence, let's say Nigeria, we've been involved in cultural diplomacy in the sense that we've been building bridges, taking our palm trees to other Commonwealth countries, over the years. Now, it's interesting to note that the #1 producer of oil palm in the world is Indonesia. The oil palm tree was introduced to Indonesia by the Dutch. The second largest producer of oil palm in the world is Malaysia. The palm tree was introduced to Malaysia by a Brit and a Scotsman, and the palm tree was taken from eastern Nigeria. Now, this is where it gets interesting. 100% of all refined palm oil consumed in Nigeria, we call it vegetable oil, comes from Indonesia and Malaysia.
No.
100% comes from two countries that they took our palm trees to these countries. So we just have, the natural raw materials. It's going to all these other places, getting refined and being brought back to
That
us.
can't be 5%.
Now, onto films. Yes, we said Bollywood, Hollywood, and Nollywood. And sorry, excuse me, sir. Was it? What was the Pakistani one? Lollywood. So, naturally, we think of films, we think of Hollywood or Bollywood. Bollywood is the largest film industry in the world, based in India. Now, the third largest film industry in the world is in the United States, and that's Hollywood. The second largest movie industry in the world is Nigeria. That's Nollywood. In 2013, we produced 1,844 movies alone. In that year alone, the industry is worth $3.2 billion. Now, Louis Vuitton. I'm sure you guys are thinking, okay, there is no way she's going to say Louis Vuitton is from Nigeria. But hear me out. Yes, it's an iconic French brand, but all the leather for their handbags and for their suitcases comes from a little outfit called God's Little Tannery. It's in the city of Kano in northern Nigeria. Apart from supplying Louis Vuitton, they supply a lot of other design houses, including Ralph Lauren. Okay, chocolate, the last one. Okay, yes, indeed, chocolate is not Nigerian. There's no way, I'm not going to claim that. It's actually from Estonia. Is anyone from Estonia? No? Well, great, I've never been, but great country. I mean, if they gave us chocolate, they gave us Skype. I don't know what I'll do without Skype and chocolate. But anyway, let me not digress. So chocolate is consumed mainly in Europe and in America. Yes, the major brands are Swiss, Belgian, Italian, British, American. You look at the Forbes list, you have the Mars families and the Ferrero Rocher families. Now, the raw material of chocolate is cocoa.
Yes.
75% of the world's cocoa is produced in Africa. As a continent, we neither consume chocolate, nor do we produce chocolate. All we do, we provide the raw material.
Again, something's lacking.
Thank you. So there's a central theme in every single thing, every example I've given. And that central theme is what? It's an absence of value addition to the rich resources that we have in Africa. We produce palm oil, but we produce palm oil, we import refined palm oil from two countries that we gave trees to. And from Nigeria, we produce a lot of crude oil. We are very oil rich. Somebody said oil as something that came to mind, with Nigeria. Yes, you sir. But we don't have refinery capacity to produce the petroleum products. We import everything. It is. Now, with the case of films, yes, we produce more movies than Hollywood. However, we're not distributing these films to international cinemas or television stations. There's no big, massive DVD release on the side of a bus telling you that some Nigerian film is coming to W.H. Smith next week. And we know that this is where the money and the value lie, in these additional extras. Same goes for Louis Vuitton. If we're producing leather to such a high quality that these iconic brands are coming all the way to northern Nigeria to get our leather, and in this same vein, we are still importing handbags and shoes. Now, as for the cocoa example and the chocolate example, this is one very close to my heart. As mentioned, I serve as the Chief Executive Officer of the Eti-Oni Development Group, where His Majesty here, Oba Dokun Thompson, is the traditional king. He's the Oba Oloni of Eti-Oni. So our mission at the EDG is to transform a rural community into a sustainable smart town. How? By building an economic model that uses the rich natural resources of the community. We aim to address issues to do with social and physical infrastructure that is lacking. We address issues with poverty, education, malnutrition, we'll provide building of social housing, roads, hospitals, and so on. The aim of the EDG is to create a chance for people to have self-respect and self-sufficiency, and an overall improved standard of living. Our aim at EDG is to replicate this economic model across other communities in Africa and drive rural transformation that is sustainable. So I don't know who was listening when I found it very interesting, the lady that did the music thing in the morning. You know, she was talking about, don't go and build some $64 million theater. Why don't you go around and build all these smaller $10,000 communities and spread this diplomacy amongst these smaller groups? Because when you have a very big plant, if something goes wrong, first of all, you're only benefiting people in that small radius, and anything goes wrong, that's the end. Whereas, if you're in so many different communities, you've automatically spread out. Now, at the Eti-Oni Development Group, we're rich in cocoa, so we're looking at adding value to the cocoa value chain, getting further up from just doing raw beans to maybe producing chocolate. And by doing all these small plants around, so we want to do that in Eti-Oni, and we aim to replicate it in other communities across Africa. But by building these small plants, we're able to develop an economic model that can drive development in these areas. So you don't need to think of one big, massive plant that's doing 1 million metric tons. Think of smaller plants doing 5,000 metric tons, benefiting the 2,000 people around. Now, a bit more about Eti-Oni. It's the birthplace of cocoa in Nigeria. It's home to the very first plantation in the country. So this year, we're celebrating, as Kabesi may have told some people, we're celebrating 120 years of cocoa production from 1896 to 2016. And the first plantation was in 1896. Now, the Kingdom of Eti-Oni was formed in 1881 by Adaeze Thompson, who's the great-grandfather of His Royal Majesty here. And the country Nigeria was actually formed in 1914. So we like to think of Eti-Oni as the, let's say, big brother of Nigeria, being that our community has existed over 33 years prior. I don't know how familiar everyone is with colonial history, but then how Nigeria was formed was from the amalgamation of several kingdoms into one country, Nigeria. So, as I have said, yes, Africa, we're not very much involved in the value chain, and it's something that at the EDG we plan to do. So by addressing cocoa, we're looking at two examples of getting further up the value chain. The first one is we're building a 5,000 metric ton capacity cocoa processing plant. We're employing the farmers who have been farming for 4 generations. They normally go out in the morning and they farm from about 6 a.m. to noon. The rest of the day, we're going to employ them in the factory so that they actually get more value. I don't know if anyone knows about the cocoa value chain, but I think it's something about $2, what is it, $2 for a kilo, or about $2 for a kilo of raw cocoa, and then $2 for a bar of chocolate. So you see where the value doesn't lie in the raw materials, it lies at the end of the value chain.
1 to 20.
Okay, so it's about a 1 to 20 ratio. So in this cocoa processing plant, which is a 5,000 metric ton capacity, we're keeping it small. We're going to produce cocoa butter and cocoa powder. So not moving to the raw finished chocolate, but then at least moving further up the value chain than we were. Yeah. And secondly, as part of our 120-year celebration in Eti-Oni, we're organizing a cocoa festival. The details are on cocoafestival.com. Yes, plugging it. So we're the only cocoa festival, so that's the website. It takes place 27th of November to 3rd of December. And it's just a chance for one to experience the rich cultural heritage of Eti-Oni and the tradition of cocoa farming. And everyone here is invited. We'll be very delighted to host all of you in Eti-Oni this November, December. So please feel free to reach out to me. And moving on to the Commonwealth, I think I'll just touch a little bit on that. So historically, yes, Africa and other Commonwealth countries have exchanged raw cocoa for chocolate. And I think it's time for us to look at these sorts of exchanges that we've had. And let's try and move away from Africa being a merely extractive destination to one of value add. And how we can do this is by working together, even as a Commonwealth, for best practices for taking these resources out of Africa. So the continent moves towards this value addition, and we move further up the value chain. So technology transfer is key. Partnerships are also key. For example, at EDG, we're exploring technologies from the UK and India for our cocoa processing plants. We're also looking at advancements in other Commonwealth countries in the areas of clean energy and sustainability in our building of our model town. And this will all ensure that our future generations can be looked after. It's also worth noting there's a case for reverse innovation. So it's not necessarily the more advanced countries in the Commonwealth bringing their advancements to the less advanced or less developed. With reverse innovations, the more developed countries can tap innovations from the less developed countries. I'll give you a few examples. We have microfinance in Bangladesh, and we have mobile money in Kenya. So those are 2 Commonwealth countries as well. So, okay, before I finish, I know it's been a long day and everyone is a bit tired, but can I just ask everyone to just stand up? Just humor me, just humor me.
Well, we're going to dance now.
No, you're not going to dance, you're not going to dance, you're not going to sing, don't worry.
I don't mind.
If you want to, okay. So, I'm just going to ask...
You want to get a photograph?
Yes, I won't. No, but I just want maybe the people in the front row, maybe you included. It's just a small exercise. If you can do your hands like this. No, okay. Yes, first row, yeah.
You
Okay,
can ask why, but no, I'll do it for you.
Okay, then the second row, just like this. Who's second, who's third? Okay. Okay. Third, so basically do the opposite to the person in front of you. So if they're doing this in front of you, then do this. If they're doing that, do that. Yeah? No. Just keep one. So one, some people have their hands closed, some have their, okay. Do I have this? Okay, sorry, I'm gonna get a selfie.
Yes, certainly.
Okay, so thank you very much. That's what. Yes, well, you can just stay upstanding. So, Your Majesty, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being such ardent listeners. So the point of that exercise was just, if anybody asks me how my talk went, I'll be like, I received a standing ovation at the end of it. Thank you very much.
Excellent. That was lovely, and it was very, very entertaining. God bless you, Adaeze. I would like to see if any questions, because Of course, it was interactive before, but is there any questions? Order. Is there any questions? Yes.
Yes, he was always asking. It's good to ask them that.
Hello. Yes, as you mentioned, to development of Africa, as you're the chief officer of the development of Africa, is that any foreign companies which is at the moment they are in Nigeria, they're doing all the investment for these kind of project?
So for our project in particular, it's a private initiative. We're very happy to work with partners, but it's a mutual arrangement. We're not, we don't want people to think we're trying to take them back to anywhere. But it's private. We're looking for partners from all over the world, and it doesn't have to be Nigerian. It doesn't have to be from anywhere in particular. We're just looking for someone that can bring the right value.
But no corrupt.
And that is not corrupt. Thank you. Yes.
I'm just wondering if you could do. Sorry, there's somebody else. Okay.
Good evening. I'm Vincent from Nigeria also.
Okay. Hello.
I'm very happy and then delighted in your speech and then the Royal Majesty for me to see him, talking in the public. And I think I'm also surprised and also happy to hear for the first time that cocoa actually originated from Eti-Oni in Osun State. But the question I want to ask, because I school at University of Ibadan, I know there's a place called Cocoa House, but we only read that one on paper and as a history student, that this is where they do keep cocoa file and some other thing, but I know the place has turned to, something else. But I don't know. I want to ask, is there any mayor or what His Royal Majesty is doing, in bringing back this lost glory? Because I can call it lost glory. Because right now, it's only few communities that you find cocoa. As far as Nigeria is concerned, maybe before you can find some in Africa, you go to maybe places like Ghana or Ivory Coast. Yeah, but what are we doing? Because right now, oil is losing value.
Exactly.
And I really appreciate our president, encouraging, taking us back to agriculture, which was our source of raw material and our source of wealth before we discover oil, whose I think incidentally happened to be, on the disadvantaged side. Let me put it in that way, due to the way our leaders, misuse the money, and especially some of our money that are being stuck in Europe and America. Let me put it in that way. But what are we doing in bringing back this lost glory, especially on area of cocoa?
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. His Majesty is here, so I'll let him speak. But just before that, I want to just point out something. When the oil prices dropped in Nigeria, automatically the government moved towards an agricultural initiative. Yes, everything, I'm sure my fellow Nigerian can attest to that. Everything now is, we're focusing on agriculture. But what was the central theme of what I discussed? This value addition. How a country like Nigeria can still be importing diesel is an abomination. How we can have all that oil and we can't refine anything. Even with the palm oil, it is disgraceful. And they've done exactly the same thing with agriculture. I can see that there are Ghanaian bananas in Marks and Spencer. We want Nigerian bananas there. That's still just the raw material. We're still making those same mistakes. So even with the raw cocoa, we're still we need to find how to move one step further. If we can't get all the way to the end where all the money is, at least let's start moving. Because if we don't, we're just going to remain where we are. Your Majesty.
Okay, I think what I'll do is answer your questions from 2 points of view. First, what you'd have to understand is from the origin of cocoa, coming from South America, Brazil being the largest producer of cocoa, and then after some diseases or whatever, it was brought into West Africa, and Nigeria was probably maybe the largest producer of cocoa at some point. And that was, we were one of the first to bring it into West Africa. Ghana, probably 10 years before us, and then it came into Nigeria in 1896. After that period, and government changed hands, democracy came, the cocoa farms were extended to other western regions in Nigeria, Ondo State, Benin, some parts of Oyo, Ogun State, and all that stuff. But today, our production capacity has gone down because of oil. Cocoa house, or the cocoa that we had, was actually used to build Western Nigeria, the entire Western region. And even at that point in time, the highest revenue of the government, I'm talking about the federal government now, was from the tax on cocoa. So there was a riot because the government now, in looking for more revenue, increased the tax on cocoa. And there was a riot, a king was killed, the whole place was destroyed in Ogbomoso. So we have to understand, it's not just about finding oil. The farmers were destabilized, and so many things happened. And then, unfortunately for us, oil came in. But like I keep on saying, it's the same rhetoric. Diversification, diversification. Nigeria's economy has always been diversified. The only thing missing in the art economy is simply value add. So we've been a raw material base, and until we change that and have intermediary products or finished products, there will never really be a difference in our revenue drive. That's one part of it. The other part is, I want to say something about the UK. There's been this sort of global approach to solutions and production of things. But we're in Cornwall this weekend, only for us to realize that Cornwall had every single thing. They had their own champagne, their own soft drinks, they had their pasties. Yeah, they had so many things. We were even excited when we saw a Cornish, the bottle, the drink now, ginger beer. And they were even being honest about where the products, some of them were from the Cornish fields, blah, blah, blah. But here, it was made out of ginger extracts from Nigeria. You know, so what are we trying to say? Already, for me, it's like they're ahead of us, because it's not these mega solutions that's going to resolve the world's problems, but so many micro solutions scattered all over the place, using their culture to drive the economy. And Cornwall is a very, very good example within the UK that, I mean, you would all understand. Thank you.
Yes. Please introduce yourself.
Selin from Turkey. I'm coming from Turkey.
Okay.
Really nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Ada, can I say Ada?
Yeah, Ada is perfect.
Yes, yes, Ada. Actually, this question will suit you because you are a woman. Could you please mention about the role of women, gender equality in this Africa, about this transformation that you mentioned about, and development, this sustainable development?
Okay. So, very interestingly, we're developing in line with the UN SDGs. So I don't know if anyone is familiar with the, yes, with the Sustainable Development Goals. So gender equality is always a main factor. I mean, whenever people talk about developed countries, gender equality is always mentioned. Are the female children going to be given the same advantages as the male children to go to school, education? Now, I want to say something actually quite interesting about women and Nigeria and agriculture. I work in His Majesty's Kingdom, but I'm actually from the southeast of Nigeria. And I remember growing up in my village, all the people that I'd see on motorbikes going to the farms in the morning,
women.
They were all women.
Women rule.
I had to ask, I go, where are the men? Oh, they're home.
They're sleeping, they're drinking.
I never understood it. So, well, I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying that there's no Chatham House rules here. I can see a camera in front of me, so I'll be very careful what I say. But women, we actually do have quite a big role in the development. I don't know if you've also read about microfinance banks as well.
That's very good.
You see, they knew that the people they had to give that money to were the women. And they paid back. So we are the drivers of, we're the drivers of change, we're the drivers of development, we're the drivers of transformation, and we are, okay, His Majesty wants to add something as well. Okay, go ahead.
Because she's a woman, it may seem like she's trying to sort of talk so much about the women, but I'll try and explain something about what the traditional structure is, just so that you would understand the role of women. First, I'm in southwest Nigeria. She's from southeast Nigeria. For her to hold such a position means that for some people, you can almost say it's sacrilegious. Yeah. That's number one. Then, again, she's a woman. But in actual fact, I know the history, I know the origin of our traditional systems. Women have always been given a very, very high position in the scheme of things. No, very, very high. And they're very, very esteemed in the scheme of things. I'll tell you what I mean by that. When you're a king and you have a mother, the mother is seen as the mother of the king. Even when the mother dies, there's a honorary position that goes to another woman that is respected as the mother of the king, that can speak to the king even when the king is not seen. No one else can talk to him. That's number one. Number two, talking about transformation, talking about economy, talking about development. No, the king is the father of all. No, listen, but the mother is above. The mother is above the king. Exactly. Then, there's three important traditional roles for women. The first one is the economy of that kingdom is in the hands of the woman. The commerce in the hands of the woman. Trade in the hands of the woman. Then internal affairs in the hands of the woman. There is no role, there is no traditional role for men in those positions. It is only now that they're being created. But the women have always been in charge of all those things. You have the Iyalode, who is like the head of the internal affairs. You have the Iyaloja, the head of the market. You have the Iyalaje, the head of the trade and commerce, and everything like that. So even the person in charge of finance is also a woman. The only titles that are for men are military titles. Things to do with security, and that's it. So when it comes out now and the UN is trying to push it in some areas. For me, it's like they're only globalizing what already exists in our systems and institutions. Thank you.
Yes, any other question? Yes. We take 2 more questions.
No, it's not a question. I just want to add something on what they have said about gender issue in Africa. Africa is really, really sensitive on gender issues. Like for now, many countries of Africa are promoting gender empowerment by giving even special seats for women politicians to be members of the parliament or House of Representatives. And like, for instance, in Tanzania, we are trying to achieve a 50-50 by 2025. Yeah, and yeah, like for records, Rwanda, apart from everything, they are high. I mean, they have like a lot of women. So Africa, they are really, really sensitive on gender issues. Yeah.
You've got Madam Congo there as well. Madam Congo, would you like to say something? Madam Congo, can you give it Madam Congo want to say something?
Yeah,
please?
okay, Madam Congo.
Yeah, she's Madam Congo.
Good afternoon. My name is Charlotte. I'm from the Congo. I can say that I'm very, very happy to hear what you're doing in Africa, in Nigeria to start with. The example I'm going to give today is Congo. We have so much raw material. I think you know about Congo, all the minerals Congo have and all that. And your idea is so wonderful. Are you planning to broaden it, to take it elsewhere in Africa? Though we are not from, we're not part of Commonwealth. So.
No, we're identifying different communities. We've also identified one in the southeast of Nigeria. So it's not just cocoa. We find what are those raw materials that they have and how can we add value. So the community that we've seen in the southeast has, the soil is very rich, it's very fertile. So they have quite a lot of fruits, so mangoes, bananas. And so what we're moving towards now, I don't know if, well, my fellow Nigerians here, when I have mangoes here, they're not the same as, exactly. I go, no, this should not be called a mango.
Every area.
Yes.
Different
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. But then, you know, I go, people need to experience real mangoes, not these ones. But anyway, besides that, same thing. Pineapples, bananas, everything tastes different here. But we don't really export fruits. And as I said, I'm a bit against exporting these raw materials. So what we're looking at is an instance of exporting dried fruits or fruit concentrate. So we're not just doing the raw materials, we've moved at least 1 or 2 steps up. So with the fruits, that's in Southeast, but I'm sure if it's Congo, we'd find out what... Okay, no problem.
Yeah, of course.
She's overwhelmed.
Okay.
Sure.
She's not saying a lot.
Okay. Should I sit down?
No. We're launching this model Smart Town in December, and we're launching it with a Cocoa Festival. At the moment, she's pursuing a master's degree in major programs management at the Oxford University. And the reason for this is because we're also working in line with the SDGs, and we understand the challenges with Africa, the poverty, health, and stuff, all those issues. On my own part, I've also sort of established something called the African Natural Rulers Initiative. What she's going to be doing, I'll explain, I'm going to try and bring the two together now. What she's going to be doing is while she's studying, doing her master's, which is going to be 2 years, and we are developing this model town or this smart town, she's going to use it as a template and create opportunities for research, to be able to build statistics, so that a template can be created that can be replicated across Africa, irrespective of whether you are in the Commonwealth or not. Now, this will be with the African natural rulers, because we were going to speak directly with the traditional rulers, so that what normally happens is someone, an individual, comes into the system, takes away all the wealth, and that's it, and the community is left dead. But what we're trying to do is reverse that. You know, rather than hand over money or hand over such resources and wealth and power to an individual, it will be handed over to the community. So when those communities are doing these projects, we would also try and invest in them, because just to help them to get a head start. When these communities are doing these projects, a certain percentage of that money is going to be owned by the community to pursue developmental projects that are transformational in nature for shared valued purposes. I hope that answers the question.
I think that's it. I think that's...
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.
Excellent.